Trade deadline season is officially underway, and with the Toronto Blue Jays holding on to the top spot in the American League East, they're going to be eager to get in on the action and bolster their roster. The Blue Jays pitching staff has done a good job of supporting their elite position player group so far this season, and they've helped the Jays to go 46-22 over their last 68 games. But its holes are pretty obvious. Blue Jays starters have the seventh worst ERA in baseball this season at 4.47, and they're one injury away from Lazaro Estrada starting important games down the stretch. It's safe to say that starting pitching should be the focus for the Jays at the deadline, so I thought now would be as good a time as any to break down a couple of guys that I think the Blue Jays should have interest in, and a couple of guys that I think will help them out in the rotation. Let's get into it. The Jays are in a tough spot because they're flush with middle of the rotation starting pitching and thin on top end talent and depth. If the only starting pitching acquisitions they get are depth, it's going to feel underwhelming. But a name that could come in and provide some of that ace level talent is Dylan Cease. In the same breath, I do have to point out that his 4.59 ERA on the season is pretty nasty, and a lot of that has to do with the fact that he's walking way too many hitters and giving up way too many home runs. Still, his stuff is just as nasty as it was last year when he finished 4th place in National League Cy Young voting. His fastball averages over 97 miles per hour, and his slider and changeup remain some of the filthier pitches in baseball. Aside from the obvious upside, I think the Jays should be interested in Cease because of what the Padres are expected to ask for in return. As a team that's currently holding on to a playoff spot, they're hoping to bring in major league position player talent, hoping to plug other holes on their roster. The Jays are one of a few contending teams at the deadline that may actually have major league ready talent to trade away. Guys currently playing in AAA Buffalo like Alan Roden and Orelvis Martinez may be of interest to San Diego. The Jays could potentially look to trade off of the actual major league roster, and Will Wagner, Leo Jimenez, or Joey Loperfido could be pieces that help get a Cease deal done. If the Blue Jays are intent on acquiring a starter with ace-level upside, the other name I'd be most interested in is Joe Ryan. His fastball sits at just 93.5 miles per hour, but it gets a lot of swing and miss, and when hitters do manage to make contact, they're hitting just 173 against it. Pair that with 2+ breaking pitches, and you have a starter working a mid-2s ERA and having a career year. If the Twins do end up moving Ryan, it's going to take a heck of a prospect package because he's not a free agent until after 2027, and of course he's having an amazing year. If the Jays do manage to pull off a deal for him, he'd immediately slot in as their number 1 starter and would be my first choice in the new look rotation to start a playoff game. The asking price from the Twins will be high, and rightfully so, but we saw the Jays force them to pull a trigger on a similar trade for a controllable starter in 2021 when they acquired Jose Barrios in exchange for Austin Martin and Simeon Woods Richardson.
2-2 pitch is a wave and a miss. There's the curveball for a strikeout. Michael Soroka.
If the top end market proves to be as tough as it looks, then the Jays may have to turn their focus to some starting depth that can work out of the bullpen should the current rotation stay intact. If this is the path the Jays take, I'd love to see them target Michael Soroka of the Washington Nationals. He thrived coming out of the White Sox bullpen in 2024, working a 2.75 ERA across 36 innings, while mixing in some starts, although with much less success. In 2025 for the Nats, Soroka is back to being a full-time starter, and while his 4.85 ERA across 15 starts doesn't exactly jump off the page, a 3.27 expected ERA makes him much more palatable for a contending team. Opponents are hitting just 117 against his slurve, and his experience coming out of the bullpen could prove very valuable for the Jays, who don't really have an obvious spot in the rotation for a non-elite starter. It wouldn't be a huge splash, but trading for Soroka would be a lot cheaper than one of the 2 previous guys I mentioned, which would leave a lot more prospect capital for the Jays to go out and potentially acquire a position player or bullpen help. The bullpen is another obvious area of need, so if you're interested in who I think the Jays should try and trade for to address it, keep your eye out for another video in the next couple of days.